World War II is considered the costliest war in human history, and with the fate of the world on the line, both sides did incredibly extreme things to win. While history books focus on the major battles, they often leave out the truly desperate, creative, and crazy tactics used behind the scenes. From phantom armies and bizarre espionage plots to junk-made sodas and disposable weapons, in this video, we will see the most unbelievable and weirdest strategies deployed during the war. Hitler's assassination. Imagine having the chance to take out the enemy's leader, and deciding to let him live. That is exactly what happened with Operation Foxley in 1944. British intelligence had a concrete plan to assassinate Adolf Hitler. They knew his routine perfectly and had a highly trained sniper ready to strike during his daily morning walk at the Berghof estate in the Bavarian Alps. But at the last minute, they pulled the plug. Why? British strategists realized Hitler's increasingly erratic military decisions were actually helping the Allies win. They feared a highly competent, strategic successor would take his place and drag the deadly conflict on for many more months. By keeping him alive, they believed the war would end sooner. The nuclear saboteur. While the British were leaving Hitler in charge, regular citizens were pulling off incredible sabotage. Meet Jomo Brun, a chemist at the Vemork heavy water plant, which was crucial to the Nazi nuclear program. Brun lived a daring double life right under the German occupation. He secretly doctored the plant's heavy water production with cod liver oil and castor oil, deliberately stalling operations and damaging the Nazi nuclear efforts from the inside. When the time finally came to flee, his escape involved an intense, covert weekend journey across the North Sea to London. In London, he provided critical blueprints and guidance for the British Special Operations Executive. The 30-Year War. For one man in the Pacific, the fighting simply never stopped. Hiroo Onoda was a Japanese intelligence officer stationed in the Philippines. When Japan surrendered in 1945, he refused to believe the news. For nearly 3 decades, he waged a guerrilla war from the jungle. He only surrendered in 1974, when his former commander flew out to personally relieve him of his duty. The invisible enemy. When we picture the war in the Pacific, we imagine fierce beach landings and naval battles. But the deadliest killer wasn't bullets or bombs. It was disease. Across the unforgiving jungles of the Pacific theater, illnesses like malaria, dysentery, and dengue fever ravaged troops on both sides. In fact, diseases killed more soldiers than any combat did in the Pacific theater. The double survivor. Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived the impossible twice. He was in Hiroshima when the first bomb dropped. Despite severe burns, he took a train back to his hometown of Nagasaki. 3 days later, he was in his boss's office, desperately describing the terrifying blast. His boss called him crazy. At that exact moment, the second bomb detonated over the city. Yamaguchi survived again. Yamaguchi is the only person officially recognized by the Japanese government as having survived both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings. The soldier bear. Meet the most unusual soldier of the war. Wojtek. A 500-pound Syrian brown bear. Adopted by Polish troops, Wojtek was officially drafted as a private just to get him on a British transport ship. He wasn't just a mascot. He drank beer, slept in tents with the men, and during the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino, he actually helped carry heavy crates of artillery shells to the front lines. For his immense bravery moving ammo under fire, Wojtek was officially promoted to the rank of corporal. His unit was so proud that they changed their official emblem to a bear carrying a massive artillery shell. After the war, this furry hero retired to the Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland, where he lived out his days visited by his former comrades. Today, a bronze statue in Edinburgh proudly honors this incredible wartime veteran. The most decorated regiment. While the war raged overseas, a massive injustice was unfolding in the US. Following Pearl Harbor, thousands of Japanese Americans were forced into internment camps. Despite their families being locked behind barbed wire by their own government, thousands of second-generation Japanese Americans volunteered to fight. They formed the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, determined to prove their unwavering loyalty to a country that had unjustly turned its back on them. Adopting the fearless motto, "Go for broke," the 442nd fought valiantly across Europe, taking on the most brutal missions of the war. They fought with such fierce determination that they became the most decorated unit for its size and length of service in the entire history of the US military. Earning thousands of Purple Hearts and 21 Medals of Honor, these incredible soldiers proved that true patriotism is measured by courageous action, not ancestry. The ultimate false flag operation. World War II didn't begin with a massive battle, but with a staged lie. On August 31, 1939, Nazi SS operatives dressed in Polish uniforms stormed a German radio station near the border. They broadcast a fake anti-German message in Polish and left behind a murdered prisoner as proof of an attack. Hitler used this ruthless false flag operation as his perfect excuse to invade Poland the very next morning, instantly plunging the globe into war. The soldier of three armies. If you think you have bad luck, meet young Kyoungjong. In 1938, this young Korean was forcibly conscripted into the Imperial Japanese Army. While fighting for the Japanese at the Battle of Kyoungjong, he was captured by the Soviets and thrown into a labor camp. But his war was just beginning. In 1942, the desperate Red Army forced him into a Soviet uniform and sent him to the deadly Eastern Front to fight the Nazis. His time with the Soviets was short-lived. At the Battle of Kharkov in 1943, he was captured again, this time by the Germans. The Nazis drafted him into the Wehrmacht and sent him to defend France. On D-Day in 1944, US paratroopers were baffled to find a Korean man in a German uniform surrendering in Normandy. Having fought for 3 different armies without ever making a choice, Yang eventually immigrated to the US to live a quiet life. The third nuke. Why did the US drop a second atomic bomb on Nagasaki just 3 days after Hiroshima? American leaders needed to prove the first blast wasn't a one-time fluke and that they possessed a continuous supply of these weapons. But the shocking truth is, Nagasaki wasn't meant to be the final target. If Japan still refused to surrender, the military had a third atomic core already prepared and waiting to strike a completely different city. That city was Kokura. It was actually the primary target for the second bomb, but thick clouds saved it, forcing the bomber crew to divert to Nagasaki. Had Japan not surrendered, that third weapon would have almost certainly struck Kokura days later. If you want a separate video covering the detailed, step-by-step US plan for Japan if they hadn't surrendered, let us know in the comment section. The one-shot pistol. The US made a one-time use gun for the sole purpose of stealing a better one. The FP-45 Liberator was a crude, single-shot handgun that cost just $2 to make. It famously took longer to reload the gun than it did to build it. The Allies planned to airdrop millions of these cheap weapons so a resistance fighter could ambush an enemy soldier at point-blank range, steal his actual combat rifle, and vanish into the night. But top commanders ultimately cancelled the mass drops as impractical. An army of generals. While World War II is famous for its tens of millions of combatants, a lesser-known fact is the sheer number of generals required on both sides. To command unimaginable forces across multiple continents, an unprecedented amount of high-ranking brass was essential. The Allies employed nearly 3,000 generals, while the Axis was just as top-heavy, with Germany utilizing roughly 2,500 generals just to organize and lead this staggering volume of everyday soldiers. This means both sides essentially fielded their own brigade of generals during the war. This mind-boggling scale of leadership truly puts the massive global conflict into perspective. The war soda. Did you know that Fanta was invented because of Germany's fight with the West in World War II? When the war broke out, the Allied trade embargo completely cut off Nazi Germany from its supply of Coca-Cola syrup. Desperate to keep their factories running, the head of Coca-Cola Germany had to improvise. Instead of shutting down, he decided to create a brand new soda using only the leftover ingredients that were still available within the blockaded country. He essentially created a beverage out of industrial garbage, mostly whey from cheese factories and leftover apple pumice from cider presses. Because of this bizarre, wartime recipe, the original Fanta wasn't the bright, sweet orange drink we know today. It was actually a cloudy, brown liquid. The famous bright orange color and flavor wouldn't even exist until over a decade later when the brand was reinvented in Italy. Ghost Army. Have you heard about the Allies' deployment of an army that didn't actually exist to fool the Axis? Known as the Ghost Army, this top-secret unit used special effects to create the illusion of massive attacks. To deceive German planes, they set up huge arrays of inflatable equipment. Overnight, they deployed hundreds of life-sized rubber tanks and fake artillery that looked exactly like a real armored division gearing up for battle. Visual illusions were only part of the trap. The Ghost Army also mastered sonic deception, blasting pre-recorded sounds of rumbling tanks and marching troops from massive speakers heard miles away. To completely sell the fake out, they employed elaborate radio trickery, broadcasting phony Morse code and fake chatter to spoof enemy intelligence. By perfectly combining these illusions, this phantom force misdirected entire German battalions and saved thousands of lives. Feminine Hitler. Were you aware that the Allies actually hatched a bizarre plot to spike Adolf Hitler's food with female hormones? The American Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA, along with British intelligence, believed they could literally feminize the dictator. Their plan was to sneak estrogen into his meals to make him less aggressive and more docile, hoping he would become more like his gentle sister, Paula. Why use hormones instead of poison? Hitler had a paranoid rotation of food tasters who checked every single meal. A lethal poison would be noticed immediately by his guards. Estrogen, however, was completely tasteless, odorless, and would take effect slowly over time without raising any immediate alarms. Ultimately, this wild espionage plan never actually got off the ground, remaining one of the weirdest secret plots of World War II. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Which of these crazy World War II facts surprised you the most, or what wild fact do you know that didn't make our list? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. There are still plenty more bizarre World War II facts out there, so let us know if you want a part 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. See you in the next one.